So we're here today to talk about C3's Solar Climate Justice Scorecard. Why did we build it and how it works? So thank you so much for joining us. So the Community Climate Collaborative is a locally based climate organization in Charlottesville, headquartered in Charlottesville, Virginia. And we are built to serve local communities and help develop climate solutions. How do we get our communities to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 45% by 2030 and ultimately reach carbon neutrality by 2050? And so we are entirely geared toward serving communities and understanding the greenhouse gas emissions and their profiles in our Virginia communities. But we're also looking to build tools and models that folks in communities across the Commonwealth, but also across the US, can use to help advocate for solutions and reduce emissions in their own community.
In January this year, we released the Solar Climate Justice Scorecard. The scorecard sheds light on the many climate justice elements that a solar project can and should contribute to. It serves as both, as I mentioned, a checklist for designing future projects and as a tool for scoring and comparing their performance at multiple levels. Next slide, please. Before we start exploring the tool, it's important to highlight what the tool aims to achieve and what it doesn't. The scorecard aims to provide a standardized way to holistically and objectively assess non-residential solar projects. We don't expect this tool to replace additional environmental and economic analysis for each project, which should take into account the project's context and the community's priorities. Instead of substituting them, we hope that this scorecard will help solar advocates, solar developers, and decision makers better understand the climate justice benefits that standard studies do not fully take into account, and be able to identify in which areas the project is doing better and how it compares to similar projects. It's also important to remember that currently the scorecard is in its beta version, and we are actively seeking feedback and partnerships to bring it to a final shape.
This is our landing page for our scorecard, which you can get to from our website. Thanks for setting up the background, both Susan and Caetano, on this. So if you are on our landing page and you scroll down, you can see a number of topics related to the scorecard. And if you're looking to analyze your own project, you can come under this banner, and you're going to want to download two things. The first is the scorecard guide. This is like a methods document that walks through how to answer each question. And the second thing is this editable tool, which is what we'll be working with just for a little bit today. So while I'm opening this, I'll just say that this is a free and totally open source tool. All right, let's see, sorry. So anyone can analyze their own project. And if you do want to analyze a project, we would love to be involved. So please reach out to us, and we'd love to help. So when you walk into the tool, we're going to start with some procedural justice questions. So you can see every category or every topic area is like under a different tab here. These procedural justice questions are the first ones we're going to look at. So the first question I want you to look at is PJ 1.2. Were materials available in multiple and appropriate languages? And I want you guys to take a second here and just think about a couple things that you notice in the wording and the scoring of this question. And I'm sure we're all going to come up with different observations, but I'll just walk through three that I have. So the first is that this is a binary question. It's a yes or no question. So it's very straightforward to answer. Did something happen, yes or no? And in fact, a lot of our questions are structured like this to make them very easy to use. But that brings me to my second point, which is There might not be a lot of nuance in a yes or no question. And so this is phrased in a way to help develop or help people who are analyzing projects add their own customizability to whatever is needed in their project. And then the third thing that I want you guys to notice is the weighting of this scorecard. So our questions are weighted in different ways to one, reflect the importance of an individual top question, and two, standardize the points between different topics. So you can see that there are 4 questions here in procedural justice, but then 5 in distributional justice. But we don't think distributional justice is more important than procedural justice. So we needed to weight the questions differently so that the scoring matched. And once you play around, just playing around, adding some, we'll say this project did super well in distributional justice. You can go back to the summary tables, which is the first tab. And you'll notice that they're automatically populated with whatever we answered in the other tabs. And this was, just want to give a shout out to our awesome interns, Ellie and Jaime, who made this so user-friendly. So thanks to you guys. And you can see here some graphs that we have generated just by simply answering those questions. This is a graph that we saw in partial creation during our test drive. This shows how well the Hexagon project did, the developer itself, Hexagon, not the entire project, the Hexagon portion, on this project. So you can see the distributional justice scored really high. We saw that with the 1 out of 1. Socioeconomic and environmental factors also scored very highly. And so you can start to see how a project did in different topics. And overall, this project scored really well. So all right, that is one graph. And another graph that you'll get is this one. And the one on the left you saw from Kai earlier. And the one on the right is it compares the actual distribution of points in each topic. So you can see how the yellow portion and the blue portion, the light blue portion, are a little bigger on the right-hand graph than the left-hand graph. So you can see that that means this project outperforms in other socioeconomic and environmental factors and in distributional justice. Then you can decide as a community what your values are and how you want a project to be performing in different categories. And you can use this to inform how a project is aligned with what you're expecting. And note that these graphs show the total score breakdown versus the developer score breakdown, which was on the previous slide. It can be used for both. One of the so if you think back to that graph that had the 3 horizontal bar charts, the longest one was general questions for the developer. So that's going to be questions that relate to any project, no matter the size that you're going to be scoring. And then there's a kind of smaller category, which is for the developer specific questions for on-site or off-site. And so that is not exactly commercial versus utility, but that gets at that difference. And so you can, because you might have a commercial sized project that's fully offsite, and so maybe you'd put it in the offsite category. So that is currently a distinction you can make. And I think that is one of the areas that we want to make clearer, how a project falls into either category A or B based off of like it's where it's connected to the grid, how big it is, where it's located.
I just want to say we are in this situation right now where we created this as an open resource, hoping that it could be used for all by all. That's why we also created it too in a downloadable format that whoever is interested can fill on their own. However, we understand that it might be a little bit more difficult for some staff and either developer staff or government staff to find time and capacity to justify using that tool that is a new tool and etc. So for these initial steps, we're definitely considering the best way forward in terms of perhaps creating some sort of grant that we are giving our time for the 10 initial projects that are going to be wanted to be assessed, that we are going to be working with them, or the 5 first, I don't know, working with them to help them assess and etc. So that's not official, but we're definitely considering options like that. Or if that's something that we are going to be offering some sort of consultant capacity, that developers or local governments that want to assess a project reach out to us, and there is a certain fee that we are charging for engaging with creating this report for this project, for this as a third party engaging with that. So that's the answer is not clear yet. Ideally, we try to make this as easy as possible for everybody to use, but we are open to everything is dynamic and fluid at this point. We are definitely studying the best options. Thank you.